Welcome back to another Rankum, and today we have Jean-Luc Picard and Locutus because, well, they're one and the same. And with me I have Tristan. Yes, he was absent for two Rankum videos, but that's because he did them on his blog, and please check that out by all means. But Tristan, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for having me back. And I did watch your rankings of the Klingon ships and enjoyed it. Definitely, we had some differences there, but I think it's nice to see that and to see the perspective of someone else. How they rank them. It's really useful to me as well. So yeah, great. Looking forward to doing these cards today.
Yeah, and even on those, tiny differences, I don't know. I didn't actually go back and look at your list after I did my list, but I think for the most part, at least where it mattered, we were pretty similar.
Pretty much. I will say the one big difference I think was you had the Drovana ranked pretty low. For me, it's so much higher, but simply because I have a very specific build
Ah,
for the Drovana that I had some success with in the Fremont League. So it's
okay.
it's near and dear to my heart. But beyond that, I think we were pretty close.
That would be why. Yeah. And it's not that I don't think I hate on it. It's just not it doesn't suit my play style.
No, you're right. Like I said, it's you have to build it a very peculiar way to take advantage of that ability. And it actually uses like four versions of torpedo bay. So in real life, you'd be spending like $1,000 to
Ugh.
build it. So
Ugh.
I would completely understand why it would be near the bottom otherwise. So
Yes. All right. Well, Picard, and it's actually fun looking at the seven versions here, right? We've
yeah,
got anywhere from Captain Skill 6 to 9, point costs ranging from 4 to 7,
yeah,
including getting Captain Skill 9 for 4 points, which is
yes,
like okay, crazy, and some Captain Skill 8, but they're all captains,
yeah,
which is just crazy.
yeah. I think one of the few uh, characters we've seen that is only one, only captain. I mean, there's some that are just exclusively crew, but
Yeah.
for most of them, if you have a captain, you also have a crew version somewhere. And maybe if they get to Star Trek Picard, fingers crossed in the distant future, maybe we'll get a Admiral Picard or maybe even a crew Picard or something like that. But
I'd even like to
um,
see like a mirror universe crew Picard when Q lets him see his what could have been when he
oh
gets
yeah,
stabbed by the Nausicaan and you get Lieutenant JG
yes,
Picard.
that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, he's got a decipher card, which I thought always thought was pretty fun.
Yeah,
So that would be a great one to see. And they could definitely use another mirror pack
they could.
for sure.
You could also have Galen as when he's on the
Yeah,
Marauder. The
for independent, yeah, that
Yep,
would be great too.
and
That'd
that
be
could be a
fantastic.
it would be Galen, but Jean Luc Picard.
Maybe you could do like an inner light Picard. I don't know if
Hmm.
that'd be a mirror. And then
I
you get to equip Resican flute for free. I don't know what it'll do, but um, maybe you have to play a game within a game because he lives out his whole life. So you play Resican flute, and then you pause your current game. You have to play another game, and then you resolve that one, and then you got to finish your other game, and then you add up all your points.
Oh, that sounds like a mess. Definitely a tabletop simulator game, though. We could do that,
Yeah, sounds yeah.
and we could still see the All Good Things crew Picard,
Yeah, that'd be nice too.
the
I,
the
and
the future that never was when he's suffering from Irumodic syndrome.
Yeah, and we can finally get a three nacelled dreadnought Enterprise D.
Here's hoping. That's been on my list for a long time. So that talk about Picard. We get seven versions, and naturally that leads to ranking these seven versions. So for me, my lowest version is the, as I like to call him, disable Locutus.
Mhm.
So this is a card that sure you get nine drone tokens, but you're paying 7 points. And his action, you got to spend 2 drone tokens to disable 1 active shield for each drone token. So it is, it can be 2 shields that you're knocking out. It's not that this version's terrible. I just think that every other version of Picard is significantly better.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's 7 points. I mean, that costs more than a couple ships in the game at this point.
Yeah.
Um, there's very few cards that upgrade captain cards that are more than 6 for sure. So it's got to be really something special. Um, having your captain skill tied to the drone tokens and then having to spend them. I mean, you're using captain skill to disable a couple of shields. You're spending the action to do that. So now you have to make up somewhere else if you want to have any quality on your attack. You got to find an action somewhere else or some other abilities. Yeah, it's way too expensive for what it is. Picture's cool, but
Picture's very cool.
yeah.
I do think there might be a potential fleet with this and like the Negvar, Klingon boarding party, a bunch of like shield disable cards. Even the Vidian ship. I forget the name of it, but
Oh yeah, I forget they're in the game. Yeah.
but like that could be a fleet. There is potential here, but I think you're paying a ton of points to do something that is a little less prevalent, especially with cloaking being a thing.
Yeah, it's just too much. It's too way too expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe like half the price, maybe. So
Yeah. This Locutus down at like 5-4, I could see play, but not at 7. All right. Well, then my number 6. I gotta find him. Here we go. Discount Picard. Ooh, disagreement. I like it. So okay, I'll take this one. I took Discount Picard because all that he's doing is paying for himself. That's my downside. Now, granted, you are getting an 8 skill captain for free, but
yeah,
that's where he ends. And if you have a way of swapping out your captain, if you're playing in a sideboard or reinforcement league, if you have an admiral and you have a way of killing off your captain, this could be a great captain even. But it doesn't excite me for a captain to simply pay for himself. Don't get me wrong, I love Calvin Hudson, but I just want more out of my captain. I want something that's going to matter once the game gets rolling.
I appreciate that for sure. Um, for me at 6, we have Stargazer Picard.
Okay.
And not to say that he's bad. I mean, beyond Locutus here, which I think we agree is not very good at all. The rest of the Picard captains are all very playable at any given time. Um, but 4 points, 6 skills, that's not bad. You get a crew slot, which is great. And I mean, the action is good. I think there's some definitely some viability, especially in the game now, where again we've seen a lot of emphasis on extra movement with some of the recent faction packs.
Yeah.
I think putting him on say Prometheus, to get that 6 straight white maneuver or 4 bank.
Mm.
Now you're not going to use that every turn because you don't want to drop your shields, but I can see early in the game you're setting up for positioning, or late in the game if you're surrounded and you just need to get away quickly, you can shoot across the board with relative ease. I wish, considering that, it'd be nicer to have a higher skill so you could, see where your opponent has positioned themselves and then react appropriately with an extra maneuver. I think, maybe that's why I have them a little bit lower there. But I
No,
still like the card a lot.
yeah, I buy what you're saying. I do like this Picard. I think this Picard's grown on me because of mission play. This is one where there's a lot of times it's, okay, go do something and then get off the board. And having that action to do that extra maneuver is so invaluable in typically these limited points where you can't do extra things. So that's why he moved up for me, but I definitely can't argue with him being down at number 6. there's definitely a point cost, or not a point cost, an opportunity cost when you're choosing that any of these versions of Picard because you're running that one instead of another one.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that Picard has so many good varieties. I mean, if this was, you know, Morgan Bateson captain, I'm like, yeah, that's a great card. I'd play that a lot, but
Yeah,
you got to play it up against other Picards.
absolutely. And boy, that's a captain we need in the game.
I would love that.
All
Yeah.
right. My number 5, and this may be where I get the hate, is the other version of Locutus. And I do like this version, but I find him slightly limited because he can only go on a Borg ship.
Mhm.
And I mean, everything else about him is fantastic. Skill 9 for 4 points. Give me 9 drone tokens that I can use, and I keep a skill 9 captain. That's fantastic. I get 2 extra crew slots. Again, fantastic. And I don't pay faction penalties for my crew. Great. It's simply he can only go on Borg ships.
Yeah.
That's my downside. And uh, and again, opportunity cost. I just like other versions of Picard better, and there's plenty of time when I'm not running Borg. If I choose to run Borg, this is my first captain I'm going for. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I probably should move Locutus up just a smidge, but I'm gonna stick with the ranking that I got.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And I'll say for the next three captains here, three, four, five, on any given day, I could probably easily switch them around in my mind. In fact, I probably have done that on the different versions of this ranking I've done. Um, so you've already kind of covered this guy. I think this card's kind of a glass half empty, half full kind of
Mm-hmm.
test, right? You can look at it saying, well, he's just paying for himself, and it's he has no actual ability. But at the same time, it is like you said, it's a free 8 skill captain. Um, it can apply discounts to upgrades that sometimes otherwise might not get one. Like for example, torpedo fusillade or dorsal phaser array, something like that, which wouldn't qualify for Sakona or couldn't be put under Quark, unless you have a card and then he discounts it to a degree, and then you could put it under Quark in some cases. Um, and I think the other kind of thing that I think about is you could turn your 50 point dreadnought into a 55 point and just squeeze that little bit of extra ability out of it and still have a pretty high skill captain versus say Calvin Hudson, who's he's a 5. Even if you try to boost him, he's still a pretty middling number. I mean, you can get this captain up to 11 with a Riker or something like that. And the other thing too is he doesn't have a built-in ability. So like you don't have to worry about Goal Madrid knocking him out or B4 disabling your captain or something, because he's not going to do anything other than just provide you points.
Right.
Maybe those are all really weak reasoning there, but I have used him on a couple of. I have a 3 Prometheus build
Okay.
where I'm trying to squeeze as much, points out of a build as possible, and getting those extra 5 points back is allows me to do that. So
No, hey, like I said, I like him for him getting those discounts. You brought up a very good point with getting some extra points in on a 50-point build, which is a big facet. That can be a very important key, because a lot of times you go, okay, I need like 2-3 extra points. How do I do that? And to have a skill 8 captain that still lets you bring all that stuff is a big move. It can be the difference between winning and losing with the firing order.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, my number 4 is where at least I played the catch up to you, and I have Hathaway Picard, and there we go. See, we're all caught up. So, like I said, I bring him in there for I like having an extra crew slot, and I like late game especially, or early game positioning, late game being able to say, I'm getting out of here, bye.
Hmm.
And maybe it's some recency bias with playing Alliance and going, how cool would this ability be in Alliance?
Definitely.
But there are times it's like, hey, all my shields are gone already. So this action really is just immediately perform an additional green or white maneuver.
Yeah, yeah. Or slap them on Prometheus with some ablative hull armor, and kind of shrug off some of those critical hits, and,
Yeah.
and you can take a little bit of damage without your shields. So,
Yeah. And I actually just thought about this. This works while cloaked.
oh yeah, that's a great point.
So that's actually an even more fun thought as Romulan cloaking device is getting more and more prevalent. If you're cloaked, Picard's gonna just give you an extra move, which now you move, you echo, and you
Mhm.
action. If you can pull off all the actions to do that, your opponent has zero idea where you're going to end up.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, Romulan cloaking device is bad enough. So
Uh-huh.
thanks for that idea.
Yeah. That one's. I'm gonna save that one for after UK Nationals.
There you go. Yeah. Uh, for me, Locutus, a lot of the same things that you had. I mean, number one, I mean, skill to points level, probably the best ratio in the game. There's a few 3.7 skill captains now, but I mean, nothing else is really close. The nine drone tokens that aren't tied to the captain skill, which is great. Those two extra slots, the discounts. But it's a Borg only, and then a lot of Borg ships are pricey anyway. So you almost it's not so much these are really cool things to have anywhere else, but on a Borg ship, it's almost like this is really almost a must-have to make something viable on a lot of larger builds. So I think it's a really good captain if you're running Borg. I don't run Borg. I think he belongs squarely in the middle of this ranking.
Yeah, he's an enabler, and that's really all he is. He doesn't have an ability unto himself. He's kind of a hybrid discounter, slot upgrader, but those 9 drone tokens are not going to do anything without adding some Borg cards that utilize those drone tokens.
Yeah, you're right.
So that
Although he could provide some incentive. We were both pretty low on the assimilated bird of prey because it was so costly to use its ability. But here
yeah,
you go. You could use it like 3 times with this card and do some double rerolls. So
yeah. So that might move it up from like the 18th place it was in to like 15th.
17 and a half maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, something. Not too much, but yeah, you're right. There is something there. Um, number three is a little bittersweet for me because I love this card, and I probably ran this card more than was ever healthy for me. But it's lovingly referred to as Captain Ahab from Moby Dick because it's the first contact. The line must be drawn here, no further. And it's hatred Picard, choosing a faction. Uh, and whenever you attack a ship of that faction, roll one less attack die at a crit. There's a lot of fun that can happen in any kind of an environment that's faction pure. This
Mhm.
Picard jumps up a couple of notches. Maybe not to number one, but this Picard becomes very much more interesting to run.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you have any kind of weapon, uh, I mean, again, going against the faction pure, but there's Klingon weapon that where crits bypass
Yeah.
the shields, become hits. Ferengi missile launchers, the
Yep.
crits bypass the shields and become crits to the hull. So there is some good potential of having that set crit every time you attack. So I don't think it's the most powerful card by any means, but there's more to it. It's the flexibility of an upgrade slot of your choice. You want a second talent? Great, you can have it. Need a crew slot or a tech or a weapon? It's your choice. You get what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely saw this one used quite a bit. There was a faction period. I don't know if you were involved in the Romulan War with the Fremont Group a
Yes.
couple months back. Yeah. So you had to choose either all Romulan fleet or all Federation fleet, and not surprisingly, a lot of the Fed fleets were running this version of Picard for that very reason. That every he was going to affect every ship that he was playing against.
Mm-hmm.
So having that versatility for the slot type for the upgrade is great. That critical hit. I think the Klingon weapon, magnetic pulse, um, uh, could be useful. That'd be kind of curious maybe to run him with Matt Decker. You hit your opponent for 1 damage to the hull with Matt's ability, and then you hit him again with magnetic pulse or Ferengi missiles or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or you could run him on. Well, that wouldn't really make any sense. I was going to say the Bashar, but that you're already going through the shields on that one. But I just think the only thing is it's very dependent upon what your opponent's going to play. I think in a lot of more competitive environments, you're not going to see a ton of overlap in factions because people are just going to take advantage of whatever they can to maximize their fleet. And so then his secondary ability is a lot less effective. So, like I said, I could slot this one as low as a 5 and as high as a 3, and today it landed at a 3. So,
Yeah, for me, this was a pretty easy number 3. Like I landed and I was like, okay, I know my top two, have to debate of those top two, and then I'm like, okay, 7 was set, 6 and 5, that was kind of a toss up. 4 seemed to land, okay. 4, 5, and 6 kind of toss ups, and then Ahab Picard landed at 3. At least for me. But yeah, the top two, and I can see going either way here. The top
mhm.
two, there's a lot of there's a lot of good no matter which way you go, and it really depends on your day. And I see that we both kind of
Yep,
took new starter Picard in
yep.
at number 2, and this version of Picard is by no means bad. Being able to place a battle station token beside this ship and all target ships, all friendly ships in range 1 to 2. It's a really good ability.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to run a Burrell swarm or my personal favorite, a Katinga swarm,
Huh.
and you put Esri on there with Picard, I mean, you're popping this every turn. It gets really, really nasty. When you're running a swarm fleet like that. I think the two elite talents are probably overkill. I don't know if I ever really used that second one a lot, or even the first one. But
No.
so maybe I wouldn't mind cutting one of those back, and if you get it for 5 points, then that would be amazing. But even where it is, for what it does, it's great. And I recently ran this one in a Katinga fleet I built, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this the more ships you're playing with, the better this version of Picard is.
for sure.
That's just the reality of it. So, uh, any kind of swarming you're doing, um, any kind of support build that you're setting up, where Picard's not going to be the star, but if you run torpedo fusillade with Picard, if you run disruptor bombardment, if you've got the Sao Paulo in your fleet, stuff like that. It's not that the multi-attacking is going to benefit from having a single battle station, but just having another battle station can make the difference.
Yeah,
It's all about overall quality.
multi-vector assault mode. Yeah,
Yeah, it's multi-vector hadn't. I gotta play that. That's just something that hadn't happened yet. But
I'm always very close to putting it on Prometheus, and it's like, let's put Type 10 phasers on instead.
mm,
But one of these days, I'll give it a try.
I mean, this version of Picard's has to be lethal in like a saber swarm with the
Oh
Type
yeah,
10 phasers and just sabers going in and doing battle station and target lock or even battle station scan. If they're up against cloak fleets,
yeah.
that's gonna help.
Well, I think about sabers with some Federation torpedoes, Kira Nerys and Picard, and you're going to have a lot of guaranteed damage against your opponent
Yeah. Oof. That makes for a good day. Well, good day for
for
you.
somebody.
Bad day for
Yeah,
the opponent. Well,
yeah,
that leaves the number one slot pretty definitive here.
yeah. I don't think there's any argument here.
No. Um, yeah. Starter Picard, the original Picard. Just get a second action. It's, and I mean, it's got to be one of the core four, but the fact that he gives you the access to the action, even if your ship doesn't have it in the action bar, that's the cinch. That that's what makes him so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, you recently started doing kind of a retrospective reviews of all the earlier packs,
Yeah.
and I think it's pretty clear that there's not a lot in that pack today that's going to be worthwhile. But
Nope.
this is that one card that stands out, and it's really kind of amazing. Figure the game's what 10 years old now, and this is still top flight material. Just having that extra action opens up so many opportunities to activate a crew action, elite talent, your whatever it may be. And it's a card that's just so good that WizKids has tried to replicate it many times in other cards, but it's also so good that they have, I think, tried to not make those other cards as good. To not break the game. You can see like Goldacott from the Coronac expansion, or Mr. Spock Captain, or even the animated Kirk. They all have kind of variations on this ability where you get some sort of free action to open it up for another action, but they're not quite as good as the original Picard is. Definitely the best Picard, uh, probably the best uh, Federation captain, arguably the best captain in the game. So
Yeah. I struggle calling him the best captain in the game solely because I haven't gone and done another deep dive into ranking my captains. I think the last time I did my top overall captains, if he wasn't number one, he was definitely in the top five.
sure,
And I'm sure
yeah,
somebody will go back and yell at me and say, no, he wasn't. He was number seven. Um, but uh, yeah, he's top 10, and he is always going to stay really high up there because you always need access to these actions. I don't care what kind of really cool upgrades we get, having access to the core four actions is always going to be good.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
just you cannot go wrong with these actions that improve your quality, knock dice off your opponent, or keep you alive. It's that simple. So yeah, maybe not as exciting as some of our other rankums, but a pretty solid list here. Consensus on the number one, two, three, and seven, and pretty good consensus here in the middle.
Yeah, I'll have to be more contrarian in the future to
Okay.
shake it up.
Well, we do what we got to do. It's two honest opinions. We don't collaborate beforehand, other than to say, okay, this is all that we're actually looking at. So I think
Yep.
the conversation on this was, hey, include Locutus.
Yep, that's
And
right. Yep. No collusion here.
no, collusion is
Just
boring.
confusion. Yeah.
Collusion is not fun. Not on these videos. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. And don't worry, we'll be back with more rankums. In fact, probably another one, if not tomorrow, another one later this week. So, all right, that's it for us. And, well, thank you for watching. Appreciate it.